Today's class is given by and it is the topic is bringing souls closer to Krishna. Something 6 days. So today, 10 minutes, another 10 minutes more. Instead of 6:30, it is going to be 6:40. Thank you. Hare Krishna. I don't know, this thing is lot of me.
Jaya Radha. Jaya Radha. Vallabha Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jasodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamana Tiravana Yadi Jamana Tiravana Yadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunyavihadi Kunjavi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Balabha Girivardhari. Gopijana Balabha Girivardhari. Yasodanandana Brajacanaranjana. Yasodanandana Brajacanaranjana. Jamana Tiravanam Jadi. Jamana Tiravana Chani. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivajagaracharya Ashtatara Satasi Srimad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Shri Radha Shyama Sundara ki, Shri Shri Radha Madhava ki, Shri Gauranga Mahaprabhu ki, Gaura Premanandi. We have a little problem with our sound system. What's going on? What should I do? That did something. Now is it okay? Is it okay? For these the next 3 seconds, it's okay. We're working on it. It's a new temple, folks. It's okay. We'll figure it out in time. Well, thank you all for being here. This is the first Sunday program following the deity installation. Premananda's been planning so many details and details. Take a look at those canopies above the deities. You see those canopies above the deities? Do you know how invested she was in creating that particular shape? And you know the Pujari, the one that was the leader of that whole deity installation team, she told him what he wanted. She told him what she wanted. Here's a sample. And he made a sample, gold-plated, of a certain size and a certain, not the big ones and not the thick ones, but, I mean, and then when it came, they had some strands that weren't what she wanted, so she had them replaced with something she wanted. And I mean, she's such a detailed person. Where is she? There she is. Okay, so thank you all for coming to the first Sunday program at the temple, seeing their Lordship Shri Shri Radha Shyamasundara. And our topic for this evening is bringing souls closer to Krishna. Part 1 and 2. And it's 17 minutes before the hour. But Premananda said we can have some extra time because we started a little late. So get ready for a little extra time. I thought of speaking of 3 things on this topic and keeping within my time constraints. Bringing souls closer to Krishna. Our founder Acharya long ago gave us 4 principles, which I'd like to indicate and speak briefly about. 4 principles. They're good. I'll say them twice. Books are the basis. Purity is the force. Preaching is the essence. And utility is the principle. I'll say them again. Purity is the force. Books are the basis. This is different order. Utility is the principle. And preaching is the essence. Any questions? Pretty simple. 1, 2, 3, 4. As the formula for bringing souls closer to Krishna. Books are the basis. That's easy. Our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, dedicated how many hours of each day, along with everything else and everything else and everything else, in providing us literature that would last beyond his lifetime. And sure enough, it's doing that. You probably all know people, maybe you're even one of those persons, who have been the recipient after Prabhupada's departure of some of Srila Prabhupada's books, and how transformational. One of the functions of the mind, there's several, one of the functions of the mind is the mind carries convictions. Just like air, Bhagavad Gita, just like air carries different aromas. Similarly, the mind carries different conceptions. And everyone has a conception. Before we got here, we had a conception. And then along comes Prabhupada's books, and it may challenge, or it may augment, or it may do so many things, but it's fundamentally meant to bring us to a conception that's closer to Krishna. And ultimately, not just closer to Krishna, but with Krishna. And the medium is sound, it's recorded sound, and therefore books are meant to be heard and discussed, something that Devaki Nandan Prabhu mentioned in his talk yesterday. I'll try to stay on topic and stay within time, which is a challenge. But temples are meant not only for coming and taking darshan of the deity. Have you noticed a number of people after the arti, they didn't stay for hearing, and that's nice that they came, and it's nicer if they can hear because books are the basis, and hearing the presentation of the writings of our disciplic succession, particularly through our founder Acharya. It's so important. Utility is the principle. We use things. Use a microphone. Sometimes it gets feedback, but we use it anyways. To assist. And Prabhupada would refer to this very example. And through the microphone, he spoke so many things. Here's a nice Prabhupada story. You want to hear a nice Prabhupada story? Yes. In New York City, Prabhupada had nothing but a vision. And after some time, he managed to have enough funds to rent a little studio apartment. Those of you that have lived in a big city, you know how small a studio apartment is, right? New York City, studio apartments are very small place. But he wasn't discouraged. It was a space where he could, other than Dr. Mishra's place, he could have his own place and speak the message of Bhagavad Gita. So 3 times a week he would speak Bhagavad Gita from his studio apartment, little tiny place. So on a particular day, this is history, Prabhupada cooked a feast for the guests that he was expecting to come, and for one reason or another, nobody came. Nobody came. And so what did he do? He was never discouraged. He had a dilapidated recording machine, but Prabhupada knew how to operate it. Although he wasn't, a technology whiz, he knew how to operate the recording machine. And he gave a Bhagavad Gita class to the four walls in his recording machine. Later, that recording was transcribed by the devotees, and it became the introduction to Bhagavad Gita that is now read by millions and millions and millions and millions of people. Prabhupada was making a recording in that little machine for the audience that wasn't there, but the audience that came later, the world. Preaching is the essence. Utility is the principle. Books are the basis. There's three of the four. And purity is the force. Purity is not so important, right? Purity is very important. Purity is very important. And the process of the other three are helped to bring us to the purity is the basis. Books are the basis. Purity is the principle that carries things forward. So to bring souls closer to Krishna, there's a few things needed. One thing is bhakti. For us to bring souls to Krishna, there has to be bhakti. Or say it a different way. Bhakti is passed on from one to another proportionate to the bhakti that one is carrying. So you can't give bhakti to others without having it. You can't give something to others if you don't have it. If you have something, you can give it to others. And bhakti is a really good thing to give. We were discussing in the morning class. The Bhakti Devi is a personal expansion of Srimati Radharani. Ooh, there she is. Srimati Radharani. I can tell you from the Pran Pratishtha ceremony and the other activities we did yesterday, she has such a sweet smile. She's so happy. So Prabhupada over here smiling and Radharani over there smiling, and in between is opportunities for Bhakti Devi to touch your heart. And for you to extend the same to others, to bring souls closer to Krishna. So time is limited. I want to move on to a second point that I wanted to make. The second point I wanted to make is something that I heard when I was a brand new devotee, very new devotee, and it's another Prabhupada story, but it's relevant to bringing souls closer to Krishna. Years ago, after Prabhupada had this little studio, eventually the devotees arranged for him a storefront. And those of you that have been to that storefront, it's not opulent and it's not large. And it opens out onto 2nd Avenue, which has lots of truck noise and street noise and fire engine noise, and it's not like this. But it was a beginning. And every day, 3 days of the week, same procedure: kirtan, lecture, kirtan, and prasadam. Kirtan, lecture, kirtan, prasadam. And after some time, the kirtans became quite lively, and the devotees would begin to dance. And when the devotees began to dance, it became ecstatic. When the devotees became ecstatic, the president of that little place, Brahmananda, asked Prabhupada one day, "Swamiji, is it okay if we take this chanting into the public?" Prabhupada smiled and said, "It was just waiting for you to ask." Yes, but we'll need a permit. This is I heard from Satsrup Maharaj, who was present also. And so they got a permit, and one midday, they went to Tompkins Square Park, which is a few blocks away, and chanting along the way, and they went to the park. They sat under a tree, celebrated elm tree is still there, and they chanted from 2 o'clock till 5 o'clock. And by 5 o'clock, there was a big crowd of people that had never seen anything like this before. And when the kirtan stopped, Prabhupada stood up. And he looked around. You maybe have seen the photograph. His hands are folded in front of him. Behind him is, to one side is the elm tree. Back there is a big church and a steeple, and the crowd of people wondering, what's he going to say? What's he going to say? And here's what Prabhupada said. I was told. This is what Prabhupada said. Now, close your eyes and imagine you're a world acharya in the making. It hasn't happened yet, but you have Krishna Shakti like anything, and you're meant to carry Krishna Bhakti throughout the world. And your first public message is going to be what? The seed was, I've not come to teach something new. I've come to remind you of what you have forgotten. Cool, huh? Again, I've not come to teach something new. I've come to remind you of what you have forgotten. And that same message I heard maybe a few months ago at the Potomac Temple. She was here for the opening yesterday, Ananda Vrindavan. I was there for a seminar with another devotee. It's very nice, having common speaking with another devotee is really nice. Amarendra, Prabhu? You know the Sanskrit scholar Amarendra? Amarendra. Sanskritist Amarendra. So we did a duet. It was nice. Vrindavan. We had a nice time together. So in the morning, Saturday morning, Sunday morning, Ananda Vrindavan introduced us, and she had introduced with the same message, but the context was different. So same message. This is bringing souls closer to Krishna message. Prabhupada in London, a reporter came to visit him at the Bhaktivedanta Manor. Swamiji, you've come to our country. You must have brought a message. What's that message you'd like to share with our countrymen? Guess what? I've not come to teach something new. I've come to remind you of what you have forgotten. So as to bring souls closer to Krishna, it's just reminding people of what they've forgotten. Now sometimes that can be a bit of a challenge, and sometimes it's not at all a challenge. Sometimes it's just delightful. And it's delightful whether it's delightful or a challenge, because the mission, or the instrument of our founder Acharya and the previous Acharyas of Lord Chaitanya, Krishna himself, is to bring souls closer to Krishna. And it's pretty simple. Just remind people of what they've forgotten. It's simple. Very simple. And the third point, bringing souls closer to Krishna. Supposing souls get that remembrance of what they've forgotten. Here's another Srila Prabhupada. Somehow I love Prabhupada, I can't think otherwise. So one morning walk in Vrindavan. Some of you, how many here have been to Vrindavan? Fantastic. Those of you that have yet to go to Vrindavan, may Krishna bless you. May you one day go to Vrindavan. It'll steal your heart. You can say, give me my heart back. And Krishna will say, no, I've got your heart, that's it. So one morning walk in Vrindavan, at that time, the early days, wasn't chaos outside the main gate. It was agricultural land in all directions. Turn right, go down the road, came back. We heard the kirtan. Devotees knew Prabhupada was coming back. he looked around and said, "Where are all the devotees?" And one of the devotees in the morning walk said, "Prabhupada, they're having kirtan, waiting for you to come back. They're waiting at the gate for you." And then Prabhupada corrected. He had a different reason for asking that question. He explained, when there's opportunity to have the physical association of the spiritual master, Vapu, one should accept it eagerly. And when you have that physical association of the spiritual master, aside from doing some physical services, more important is hearing. This is bringing souls closer to Krishna. Now both are nice, but more important is hearing, Vani. And then without the physical association of the spiritual master, there's Vani. So Vani trumps Vapu, or physical association. And he looked at us. And then he explained the principle of bringing souls closer to Krishna. When those souls come in contact with a devotee, he held his hand up like this. One may see a spark. And when you see a spark, you try to fan the spark. And he moved his hand like this. And by fanning the spark may become a flame. It's bringing souls closer to Krishna. And then he looked around and said, if one is very expert, then the flame can become a big blaze. His eyes got really big. He looked around and continued walking to the temple. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. So we see the spark. Not too much, but gently fan the spark. Too much, you'll put it out a little bit. Becomes a flame. Now, so all of you are flames. And you gather a bunch of flames together and put them tightly together, it becomes a fire. Provided we don't discourage one another by harsh speech and behavior that's not becoming of a flame. So the last point I wanted to make is devotee care. So here comes some persons closer to Krishna, and we should care for them. We care for ourselves, we care for our family members, and we care for our community members. We care for little flames that are just starting. And you never know, on the positive and negative side, when some kindness you extend to someone that's coming, or someone that's been coming and they're more of a flame than just a beginning flame, how it can impact others permanently. I have Premananda. I'm going to take another 3 minutes. At our event yesterday, there's a family that I haven't seen in some number of years. And it was the father and the daughter. The daughter is admitted to Purdue University. They came all the way from Seattle because that's where she was accepted, and she's going to school there. There's freshman orientation tomorrow at Purdue University for incoming freshmen. And so it was really nice meeting them after so many years. And he was sharing, and then she was sharing. When she was 7 years old, she came to a japa retreat. And she said, I thought it was a big deal. I chanted 9 rounds. All the adults were chanting 64 rounds, and I thought it was a big deal. I chanted 9 rounds. It was a big deal. You know, that's the fan the spark. And here she is, going to freshman orientation, coming to the temple opening, wearing her japa bag. I assume she was using it. I didn't ask. How many rounds you chanting? Didn't ask. But, you never know. And then when people come, carry yourself, conduct yourself, develop the qualities and character and lakshanas of a devotee. What's the principal characteristic This is a Bhagavad Gita quiz. Some of you like reading Prabhupada's books, I know. And some of you are beginning to read Prabhupada's books. And there's a passage in chapter 13, verses 8 through 12, where characteristics, lakshanas, characteristics of knowledge or qualities of knowledge are described. And of them, what's the principal characteristic of a devotee? Besides Chandramali Swami, who knows the principal characteristic of a devotee? This is, you want to bring souls closer to Krishna. Souls inherently have love for Krishna within them. What's the principal characteristic of a devotee? Krishna Eka Shanana. Krishna Eka means alone, and Shanana means surrender. They take Krishna as their exclusive shelter. So how do you get people, how do you assist people coming closer to that position? By modeling good character. Be good association for such persons. Carry bhakti and display the characteristics of bhakti. Now the one that gives, according to that list from Bhagavad Gita chapter 13, Maicha Ananya Yogena Bhaktir Avyabhicharini. It's hard to give a class without speaking something from Bhagavad Gita, right? Prabhupada's stories are nice, but it's resting upon books are the basis. So, Maicha Ananya Yogena Bhaktir Avyabhicharini. When you get the association of one who has bhakti, avyabhichari, undivided devotion, my dear devotees, you want to bring souls closer to Krishna. Have a nice temple, have wonderful deity worship, have charming quality characteristics, encourage them to read Prabhupada's books, and purity is the force. Mai Chananya Yogina Bhaktir Avyabhicharini. And then you'll be a good instrument on behalf of our founder Acharya, who came to the West. He came to New York, he came to London, he came to all places around the world with one principal message, to remind people of what they have forgotten. If there's purity, you'll be a better instrument to help people remember what they have forgotten. So the temple will do that. The temple is a great assist for that. But the mission is the mission. The temple isn't the mission. The mission is the mission. Bring souls closer to Krishna. Help them remember what they have forgotten. So I invite you all, become pure, read Prabhupada's books, engage the resources that you have. Utility is the principle, according to your capacity and your nature. Some like to sing, some like to dance. Some of our congregation members like to do dramas, right? Utility is the principle, and preaching is the essence. What's that preaching mean? Bring people closer to Krishna. Fan the spark. Not too much. To make that spark a flame. And keep going, and the flames may become a big, big blaze. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Again, this thing blocks. Can we just give the microphone? Om Gyan Timidandasya Ganajana Salakaya Chaksu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Ma Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nivase Sasunyavadi Paschatya Desatarne Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So, after listening to His Holiness Romapad Swami speak, I couldn't think of anything else to say. Covered everything, and with such thoroughness that all I can do is try to look for some places I could fill in. But I'll try, because that's what I'm supposed to do. There's a word that Prabhupada would often use to describe the characteristic or the innate characteristic of a human being. He would say it's paropaka. Paropaka. Translated means to do good to others. He said this is actually the business of the human form of life. To think how to help others, to serve others, to act in such a way that others will become benefited. And in the material world, you see that goes on. But you see, as it's going on in the material world, there's a motivation behind it, and that is someone is looking for some reciprocation, some benefit, some remuneration, something in order to, inspire others in whatever way that inspiration can be helpful. So in other words, in the material world, people are motivated by personal interest. And that's just the way the material world is. Only when one comes to devotional service, that one can be free from that motivation, because the satisfaction that a devotee gets is their relationship with Krishna and the service that they do in order to serve the Lord and serve the Lord's devotee. So that is satisfying enough. And therefore the devotee doesn't look for anything when we engage in devotional service. Of course, that is considered pure devotional service. When Maharaj was talking about purity, and Prabhupada makes that point, that purity is an element that is very attractive. Now, when we say purity, we don't necessarily mean coming to the stage of becoming a pure devotee, because actually the soul is by nature pure. So that is already there as our constitutional position. We haven't realized that because of our still struggling with the material energy, still have some desires to fulfill on a material platform. But purity can be practiced at any level when we simply act according to the principles of purity. And that is what is called sadachar, or proper behavior, proper understanding of what it means to practice devotional service in a way that one becomes a force that attracts others simply by their behavior. Of course, as Maharaj mentioned, there are means by which that behavior is exhibited, and how we institute and organize various types of programs in order to attract people to Krishna consciousness. But I think the underlying element is our own, what we say, purity, that makes that attraction attractive. And I think that was what Maharaj was really hitting on, that aside from everything we do, it's all about ourselves. Coming to that stage is the more we understand and apply and actually realize the activities of devotional service, the more we become what is called self-effulgence, or we may automatically attracting, in other words, whatever we say, or whatever we do, or how we interact with others, or just in our general behavior, it becomes an attractive force. And the opposite, which breaks that, and which was, of course, one of Maharaj's main point, is like the different flames, using that analogy that we all are like flames. In other words, we all have some light. We all have something to give to others and something that we have already gained for ourselves. But as a society, it is more like building that fire, which is the unity of the flames. So finding ways to work together in order to offer what we already have to others. And that is the quality and characteristic of a devotee. There's one story, it's not a very pleasant thing, but it's a message. I think I heard this story a few times when I was in Chicago. I spent 17 years in the Kishore Temple as the resident sannyasi. They used to call me the unresident resident, because I was supposed to be there, but I wasn't. But once in a while I check in. So in that time period, I would hear different things. And one of the things is a story where, not a story, it's just a little situation where one young man, he was coming to the temple, not this temple, but another temple regularly. And so the devotees were noticing that he was becoming more attractive, and then coming regular, hearing the classes, and also taking part in the programs. But after some time, they thought, well, he looks like he's really interested, and he's been coming, but, he doesn't make any more effort to go beyond just visiting and taking part. So they said, well, why don't you move in? He was a young man with no family attachments and everything. And he said something that shocked the devotees, but it was a wake-up call. He said, I see how you treat your guests, and I see how you treat each other. I think I would rather stay a guest. So he was noticing that although we had something nice to offer and he was inspired, our behavior amongst each other was not very, we say, congenial to a community or a society that is supposed to be, what we say, synergetic, or working in such a way that we are supporting each other. Perhaps that's due to his either cultural or backgrounds, or maybe even economic situation. In other words, we might see differences on a material level. Becomes a little bit harder to, or not, becomes somewhat of a mental block in working together. But that's material. That's material. So keeping Prabhupada in the center means keeping Prabhupada's books as the foundation by which we conduct ourselves. And Prabhupada always emphasized the importance of cooperation. He said that you will show your love for me how much you cooperate together in order to bring Krishna consciousness to others. That's a very powerful force. The reason why is that when Krishna sees that devotees are in that mood of working together, and to do that means that we have to somehow or other get past our own ways of thinking that we know everything, and it's my way or the highway. Sometimes we think like that. We have to see that what is the center? The center is to please Srila Prabhupada and to please Krishna. And to understand that means to understand the process by which we can act in such a way that to get by all of these material conceptions that are actually blocking our ways of working together and come to the understanding There's a beautiful verse, or actually it's a purport in the Srimad Bhagavatam, where the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu himself, is congratulating the 9 Prachetas, who are all brothers, sons of King Prachinabarhishat. And he's congratulating them for their quality of friendliness amongst each other and their unity in that friendliness. And the Lord ends that congratulations by, he said, I'm so pleased with you. Please take a benediction from me. The Lord himself is offering a benediction just because he's seeing that the unity of great souls is so wonderful that even the Lord is inspired to want to give a benediction to those engaged in that way. And Prabhupada goes into the discussion of this principle of unity and diversity. Unity is on a couple of levels. One is that we are all spirit souls, part and parcel of Krishna. We have different bodies, maybe different backgrounds, or different ways of seeing the same thing. But these are not principles of unity. These are the elements of diversity. But this diversity can be somewhat amalgamated into the principle of unity when we all are understanding, we're all trying to achieve the same thing. We're trying to achieve devotion to Krishna. So that diversity may manifest in different ways, but the unity is the foundation by which we keep our connection with each other. And the diversity is just different ways of expressing our way to serve the Lord. Well, Prabhupada says sometimes even in the society of devotees, we see there is some disunity. But then he goes and he mentions 2 principles that probably are the cause of disunity. One, he says, leaning towards material things. In other words, if there's a material motivation for our activities in devotional service, it may cause us to see others as competitors rather than, companions. So, and then he says, of course, devotees have different ways of expressing their service, so we should accept that. And that difference in expression is just the variety. Just like in a garden, you have so many flowers, and the flowers are different shapes, different colors, different aromas, and differently placed. Just like if you have just like you see that beautiful, I think Romapad Maharaj was pointing out that to yesterday. It was right next to Srila Prabhupada's Vyasasana, one on each side. And you see that the flowers are there, but it's enhanced by the background of the greenery. And the way these flowers are placed, each one of the flowers becomes a part of a whole picture that is very beautiful. So that's an example of unity and diversity. So we are like that. We're all kinds of flowers, and some of us have more fragrance than the others, and more difference in the way we exhibit our devotion. But that should be accepted as a means of diversity. And keeping Krishna and Krishna's instructions, and as Romapad Maharaj mentions, to do that we need to understand the process, and that is Srila Prabhupada's teachings. So read these books, understand these books, ask questions based on this knowledge, and then everything becomes clear. When you have clear vision, then it's easy to move forward in Krishna consciousness. When it becomes confusing, or we start to speculate about what is the meaning of devotional activities, or we interject our own ideas, and then that purity becomes somewhat lost, and then it becomes more individualistic. And so we've seen that, and of course you see that in material society, people cannot unite. So the result of that is there more and more diversity. Diversity it continues to expand itself because people find it hard to unite because they have no center. Prabhupada would use the example of the United Nations. They came together in order to work together to bring peace in the world. But as Prabhupada would said, the flags are only increasing, and everyone comes with their own personal national agenda. So it was a complete failure because the center is not there. So our center is to please Krishna, to follow Srila Prabhupada's instructions, and as of course the topic of today is that to be a devotee means to give that opportunity to others. Prabhupada said there's two kinds of devotees. One who always only thinks about their own spiritual advancement and focuses on that exclusively, and others who work on their own, of course, that it's required, because what you have is what you can give, and at the same time always think, not only think, but plan, and this is important to understand, how to give that to others. Because if we think, well, yes, I'm friendly, I like to help others, and when I get the opportunity, that's not good enough. You have to make plans to do it. You have to make programs, plans, and ideas, and organize amongst each other to do it. And when you do that, you'll see that synergy starts to build and things start to happen. That's how this temple happened. I came here last year, about a year ago. Premananda was giving me a little tour, and it was just, the walls were on, the floors were on, but that was it. It was still a shell yet. But in this last year, it was amazing. I was telling this to the devotees yesterday, and some were also responding in the same way. How fast in this 1 year this temple came from. It was incredible. And I could understand simply by, the principle of community and unity was really strong. And when you have a leader who knows how to bring that together and is willing to sacrifice for that, and that inspires everyone to follow. So we want to thank Premananda for her hard work. I'm sure she had a wonderful team behind her. And the way she was inviting me here was to make sure I didn't forget. So I thank you very much for your continual encouragement, because I needed that. And that's what really inspired me to come, was her enthusiasm. So, yeah, and as Rupa Goswami explains, we have everything, but when you add the principle of enthusiasm, and then everything becomes very attractive. And what is that enthusiasm? Is to very carefully follow the process given by our acharyas and work in that way to make the activities in devotional service attractive to Krishna, to the spiritual master, and to people in general. I'll end by just saying one thing, just like somebody asked me yesterday. When we were on the altar, what is the most important thing we can do for this temple in order to, keep our focus on moving forward? And I just said, first I said, try to give your love to Krishna. But then I thought of a practical thing. I said, keep everything spotlessly revolutionary clean. Because cleanliness is preaching. When people come and see how clean it is, they want to come back. So that's one of the best ways to, bring people in and to keep them in. Is keep everything nice, neat, clean, and everyone should participate in that. And that's the way to show our enthusiasm to bring more and more people in. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Take the microphone.
Yeah, there is one or two questions.
Have a portable microphone. Way in the back, look at that. Okay. Emotional. Here's somebody that came for the temple opening all the way from Houston, Texas. But his parents live here in this area. Go ahead.
Hare Krishna.
Hi, Krishna.
So you were talking about purity being the force. And in the ashram, we talk a lot about whether purity comes first, second, or third. Do we have to go out on books to get purified? Do we go out on books and get purified? Or do we... All right, what order did I go in? Purity first, second, or third? Does it come before, after, along with preaching, doing books like that?
Let me say back what I think you're asking. Which comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Yes.
Does purity come first, then we go and preach, or do we go and preach and somehow purity just descends from the sky or something like that?
Exactly.
Something like that. Human life is a life of responsibility, and we're responsible for our own spiritual well-being and purity and progress. And then we're social beings also. We're mandated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and our founder Acharya, whatever your condition, Om apavitro pavitro va sarva samgato piva, whatever your condition is, one can become purified, yasmaret pundarikaksham, by remembering the lotus-eyed personality of Godhead. So as we go forward to help remind people of Krishna, that act helps us become purified. And what is that purification? Is remembering what we've forgotten. Because remembering what we've forgotten, that's the state of purity. So it's not which comes first, it's the purposefulness with which we do, reminding people of Krishna, knowing that that will help me remember Krishna. Take it in a different context. Before we go A or B, before we go on Harinam Sankirtan, we should become pure devotees. Or by going on Harinam Sankirtan, it'll help us become pure and simultaneously help others become pure by hearing the holy name. So both are becoming benefited. One whose consciousness has achieved a degree of purity, that the effectiveness of their reminding others of what they have forgotten will be greater. Same thing as I already said before, you can't give something to somebody you don't have. So whatever bhakti you have, whatever bhakti I have and anyone else in the room has, we try to give that in a mood of service unto the disciplic succession, the ones who are engaging us in these activities. So that's the purposefulness is important. So when the purposefulness when the light's on, you can give light to others. So go forward to become pure, knowing that that's also going to be beneficial to them, to others who you interact with, to the degree that you are pure. So they're not which come first, they both come. But the purposefulness is important. We're not going forward as crusaders to rescue people. You know, we first save ourselves, but that save ourselves is included in that package of saving ourselves is being instruments of someone greater than us. We're servants of a master, and the master for all of us is our founder Acharya and the disciplic succession, and we're servants of them. In that mode, go forward, and that way you become pure, and others will benefit also. Saying it simply, I said a lot. Here's its simple form. Bhaktisiddhanta told Srila Prabhupada, take this message to the English-speaking parts of the world, for by so doing, they will benefit and you will benefit also. Now that's a message to a pure devotee, but the message is the same for us. Beneficial for us and for them at the same time. Then the variable is the mindfulness or the purpose for which you're doing that activity, as an instrument or as a rescuer. We're not rescuers, we're instruments. There's a question up front. You take this one.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. You spoke about devotee care as a part of bringing souls closer to bhakti. Can you elaborate a little more on devotee care aspect of bringing?
The question is a little bit more about devotee care? Well, that we actually have programs in order to facilitate devotee care, but you can also do it on an individual basis. That individual basis means if you can find some way to serve the devotee, whether it's giving prasadam, they might have some material turmoil, and if you can help to help them understand how to, solve that situation. In other words, to do good to others, to help people, whatever the need is, to be aware of that is there. Everyone is struggling on some level. It's a fact. So devotee care means to be there for when people have situations where they need some help. And these things come up and they become obvious after some time. But as a program of devotee care, we try to, as Srila Radhanath Maharaj says, to figure out what a devotee needs in their course of execution, devotional service that'll take him to the point of going back home, back to Godhead. Association, even material help. Like sometimes a devotee will be in a financial strait and need something in order to stabilize their material life so they can practice Krishna consciousness more, with more focus. So if we can help in that way, that would also be good. A kind word is another way to how to inspire devotees, not flattery, but inspire devotees by just being friendly, being open, being available, being kind. That is the nature of devotee. And 26 qualities of devotee is mentioned in the first principle. His devotee is kind to all living entities. That is the first out of the 26 that are mentioned. So that kindness comes in the form of inspiring others in their Krishna consciousness or assisting them in whatever they need to engage in devotional service. That can be done on an individual level. We found that for years, many devotees were trying to do that, but it was falling short until we actually developed as a society a devotee care system. We started to see what are the possible things that a devotee needs in order to make progress to devotional service, and we put that in a formula by which there were branches of activities where a devotee could go and get that particular need somewhere. Like, You know, if someone was looking for a husband or a wife, there would be a system where they could put their names into a group, and then people would be in charge of, you know, trying to understand and you may be connecting people based on the information they receive. That's just one example I was using. Or the devotee is struggling with how to execute Krishna consciousness. He still comes here, still comes to the classes. We cannot sort out their problems. And Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati makes a point. He says the one-on-one connection is more effective than the platform speaker. You can make more of a difference in the life of a person by taking time with them than we do when we give our general lectures. Of course, the general lectures are important. That is our process, and we do that. And that's necessary, and it's also beneficial. But when you sit down with someone and you listen and try to understand, and if you can find ways or have resources by which you can help them. Just like I used to go with Bhakti Tirtha Swami a lot. And he would always be meeting devotees throughout the day. And then I would see when they would come out, they were changed. They would go in with some difficulty. So I said to Maharaj, I said, what do you say to them? What do you tell them? He said, I don't tell them anything. I just listen. He said they need somebody to talk to. Just by listening, being empathetic and being there for a person's problems is more than half the problem is already solved. So I just as an example of how we can be an instrument in Krishna's plan to bring devotees closer to Krishna. Yeah. Okay? Did you get that part? Okay, I want to make sure before we go on to another area here.
Can you amplify something you said? Something he just said. Bhakti Tirtha Swami example. About 2 hours ago, I was going over the section of Ramayana, many nice lessons of life. When Dasarath he became inspired to have his son Ram become the king. So he went to the leading ministers and learned people and brahmanas and everybody. What did they think? So that's an example. But then there was Ram should become the next king. And then it was, actually we want Ram more than you. And then it was, but wait a minute, we're like calves that were born from the same cow, and the cow isn't sure which calf to go to. So we can't choose between you two, but we want Ram as the next king. So then Dasarath said, tell me the reasons why you want Ram as your next king. It's really nice. And one of the things that Maharaj just said is one of the things that they said about Ram. You know, he has skill, but then one of his skills was listening. And they said, some people, when you go to them, they'll listen, but Ram doesn't wait for people to come to him. He goes to people. And when he goes to people, he just listens. He's not there to fix their problem. He's there so they feel heard. And when they feel hurt, he cries. He doesn't fix the problem. When they're joyful, he celebrates the joy with them. And so he's connecting with their hearts, with them, because he cares about them and their well-being without necessarily fixing the problem. So devotee care means like that. It's a quality of a leader, which Bhakti Tirtha Swami wrote about and modeled very nicely. Just amplifying. Somebody else out there? One more. If there's no more, that's fine too. Okay. We can count it. Gopal Hari. And your mother too.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for the very enlivening and inspiring talk. I was reflecting that when we are trying to help others, then sometimes we in trying to help others, we tend to slip ourselves. So how can we avoid slipping ourselves?
Slip?
Slipping ourselves. So I was thinking, it's so easy to as we're advancing on the path of spiritual life, to slip. Like Bharat Maharaj, in trying to help the deer, fell in love with the deer rather than Krishna. So how can we avoid this process of slipping?
Associate with Gopal Hari and you'll do fine. Because you're Gopal Hari Das. You associate with Gopal Hari and you're in good shape. So there's danger in doing nothing, and there's danger in doing something, because the world we live in is a dangerous place. Therefore, when you're doing something, be aware that there's danger in you're doing something, and therefore the protection against slipping is the purpose for which you're doing. Bharat Maharaj was a Kshatriya. So it's natural and appropriate that he did what he did. The fawn was without a mother. So he did what a Kshatriya would do. He'd give protection. Kshatriyas give protection. Give protection is good. Whether you're a Kshatriya or not, giving protection according to your position and capacity is good. That's part of devotee care. And the protection is bhakti. Bhakti means, for whom are you doing? For whom are we building this temple? For whom are we whatever? Sitting here before the deity, hearing Harikatha. For what's the mission? So when that's clear and you're striving to stay in the mood and the mission, that's bhakti, and you're protected. But if the protection principle slackens, then you're susceptible to slipping, as you using. That was the word you were using, right? Slip and fall, like that. So stay purposeful of what's the mission. When we're back to the topic, of bringing souls closer to Krishna. We're instruments in bringing souls closer to Krishna. We're instruments. And the mission of bringing souls closer to Krishna is the mission of disciplic succession. And we're just instruments. We're not rescuers. We're instruments of some persons much greater than us. And to the degree that mission is in the mind, when bhakti is there, there's protection. And if bhakti slackens, then we're at risk. It doesn't mean we're necessarily going to slip and fall, but we're at risk. Do nothing, we're at risk. So don't do nothing. Do something. Be instruments. Nimitta matram. I think we should end. Premananda, you want to close out shop here? Here's the microphone.
First of all, I wanted to take a moment to thank His Holiness Ramapad Swami Maharaj and Chandramouli Swami Maharaj, and also His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj for being here with us and being part of, not just being part of this deity installation ceremony, but much more than that. We know that it's only by all of your blessings that we are even able to do anything at all in service to Krishna. And your desire is always to train and educate us, and we are extremely grateful to all of you for being here with us. And just your presence made everything so perfect. And thank you a million times, a million obeisances from myself as well as all the congregation here in Naperville. Second thing I wanted to say is before this temple opening ceremony, the week before, we had scheduled a day for meeting with all the congregation members because many had expressed a desire to take photos and all that. And we wanted to acknowledge the service of the community members much ahead of time. But that day it rained so bad that we couldn't do any of that. My thought was I should be doing that ahead of time, not later. And a mere thank you is probably not enough. Ruchira Mataji and Sri Vallabha Prabhu were coordinating the inauguration events, and we have 20 departments here, and there are hundreds of devotees serving in each department. If I were to take everybody's name and read it out here, it is going to take one whole day. So I will just simply say, I am extremely grateful to all of you, and I feel very humbled, and I have heart full of gratitude to each and every one of you for doing everything that you have done. Otherwise, I don't think the event would have gone the way it did. And to add to all of that, we had an evening event, and so that led into the night. Some people even questioned me, what are you guys trying to do, But everything was fine by Krishna's grace. Everything went well. So I am so grateful to each and every one of you. We will have to meet another day. It looks like I don't see anybody made any arrangements here today for photographing or all those things. I don't see anything unless somebody has it. But if not, another day we can do all that. But once again, thank you all. There was Sangeeta Mataji had reciprocation gifts in that meeting room. Somehow we lost all the keys for the room. So gifts are all locked inside there. If they find a key, they will distribute it today. If they don't find the key, they will come tomorrow to distribute it. So today's Sunday program sponsor, this is Sunday program, the whole day program, is sponsored by Harmjeet Shin and Deepika Shin. This family moved to Naperville in 2012 and came in contact with ISKCON that year itself. They are generous donors and involved in cooking and garland making for Srila Prabhupada. Is this family here? Anyone from this family is here? Yeah. Can somebody help me to get, please, maybe you can give it to Maharaj. You can please come and receive. Thank you so very much, Mataji, for sponsoring Sunday program. And Sunday feast program is sponsored by Dhanesh Tatikonda to celebrate new temple. Are they here? Dhanesh? No? Okay. Saujanya Vemula and son Prithvi Krishna's 18th birthday. Yeah, please. Give it to my right. Babu Seturaman, blessings for a new grandson. Babu Seturaman, he's here, please. That thing. Falguni Rana, celebrating Akshaya Tritiya. Falguni. Abhay Kumar, celebrating new temple and seeking devotees' blessings. Abhay is not here. Thank you. Thank you all. And whether we are in the old temple or new temple, old temple or new temple or under the tree or wherever we are, under all circumstances, we celebrate everything by chanting the holy names of Krishna. So please repeat after me. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So today, for next week, if anybody would like to sponsor full day program, Sunday feast, please contact Ramdas Prabhu or Abhay Prabhu. I have seen Shyam here a few minutes ago. I don't know if he had something to say. Oh, there. Understood, but they expected it to be a little delayed today. One more thing, by the time he comes, prasadam is served downstairs, not out in the rain, so you can all honor prasadam downstairs after this.
All right, so we will not take any more time. Already you have waited half an hour. So one humble request, we are trying everything first time, first Sunday. So a lot of things in your hand. Please ensure that the cleanness, please ensure garbage, water, everything you take care, because it's your temple. It's not your home, it's your temple. So it's not leave it for tomorrow. So everything has to be done today. So please help us. Thank you. With all your support, we did what we promised. Right? 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 And it seems you all liked it too. I saw some pictures, somebody's eyes were open, somebody, so some pictures were like, it states that what this is. So now just two requests. Number one, bring more people to this place. Now this place is ready to serve. You don't have to feel embarrassing. We don't have restroom. We don't have water. No, everything is taken care. So bring more people. Tell the people how beautiful temple we can build, how beautiful way we can serve the deity, how beautiful we can give the same thing that otherwise we are not able to do. So please, tell your family, friends, relatives, community, we have the best of the best in the Chicagoland now. That's number one. Agree? Isn't this the best of the best in Chicagoland? It is? Yes. So Mataji goes every other temple and she knows this is the best of the best in Chicagoland. So the best of the best has to be communicated. But there is one more small thing. We still have over $3 million to be paid off, right? So let's not forget. So all of you have done quite a bit. And I humbly request, now some of you are still waiting. Now, at least now you have facility, let's not wait. Let's not wait. Let's make it what you have promised. Let's make it what you want to see. So please contribute and inspire others to contribute. We can jointly take it to completion. It's not complete. We have phase 3, phase 4 remaining. So I humbly request you to please work with Sumangla Mataji. She is going to lead the fundraising effort. Please work, do whatever you can to make our fundraising goal successful and participate in every way possible. That's the only thing we need. So with that, Hare Krishna, please take blessings, and very wonderful prasadam is waiting for you. And please take care of everything. It's all downstairs, Barsana Community Hall, and then you will be fantastic. All right. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.